Evening, it is 6:45 and I'll call this Committee of Adjustment meeting to order. I will remind committee members of any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none noted. Section 3, adoption of the minutes. Everyone's had an opportunity to peruse the minutes from the past Committee of Adjustment held September 21st. Okay, now I'll need a mover and seconder for the following: that the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held September 21st, 2023 be approved as presented. Committee member Froze and committee member, what's your name down there again? Chilcott. Yes. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Section 4 application. This evening, we're dealing with minor variance application A0823 Decent 45 Chatham Street. Purpose of this variance is to grant relief from the following zoning bylaw regulations for the property located at 45 Chatham Street, Portruel, West Side. Section 4.2B, to permit a side yard width of 1.2 meters for an accessory building, a garage, being closer to the side lot line than the minimum requirement of 3 meters. Section 4.2C, to permit an accessory building, a garage, to be located in the front yard. Section 4.2D, to permit an accessory building, a garage, closer to the street than the main building is to that street. And section 10.11B, to permit a maximum height of 5.75 meters for an accessory building, a garage, which is greater than the maximum permitted height of 4.5 meters. The effect of this variance will be to permit a new accessory building, a garage, to be 1, located closer to the side lot line than the minimum distance required. 2, located in the front yard of the subject property. 3, located closer to Chatham Street than the main building is to that street. And 4, to permit an increased height that exceeds the permitted maximum. And at this point, we will entertain the staff presentation. That's report DS 60. 23 by Margaret Underhill, Secretary Treasurer, regarding Committee of Adjustment minor variance A0823 Decent 45 Chatham Street. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the report before you from Johan and Helena Thiessen is for a minor variance to allow for, as we've heard, the building of a garage. The purpose and the effect has been read aloud by the chair. The planner's memorandum attached to the report analyzes the application with the 4 tests of the Planning Act for a minor variance to the zoning bylaw. The lands are not subject to any LPRCA approval, and staff and planner concur the application meets the criteria, recommends the minor variance to provide relief from section 45 of the Planning Act to permit the construction of a detached garage. In the recommendation, the 4 variances are listed, and I leave it with the chair to have a discussion with the committee.
Thank you. Moving on to section 6, presentations by the applicant or agent. Does wish anything to say? No one here?
Mr. Thiessen is here.
Okay, he's hiding behind the screen. Does Mr. Thiessen have anything to just add? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Are there any public submissions?
There are none, Mr. Chair.
Committee questions and discussion. Does anyone have any concerns, questions? Moving on then with the decision of the committee. We have a motion that reads that the Committee of Adjustment Secretary Treasurer's Report DS 6023 regarding the Decent minor variance be received, and that the Committee of Adjustment considered all written and oral submissions received on this application, the effect of which helped the committee to make an informed decision. And whereas the committee agrees that the proposed variance as presented meets section 45.1.1 of the Planning Act and is considered minor. Therefore, application A 0823 by Joanne and Helena Thiessen pursuant to section 45 of the Planning Act for a minor variance is granted to allow relief for municipality of Bayham zoning bylaw number Z 456 2003. 4.2 B, to permit a side yard width of 1.2 meters for an accessory building, garage being closer to the side lot line than the minimum requirement of 3 meters. Section 4.2 C, to permit an accessory building, garage to be located in the front yard. Section 4.2 D, to permit an accessory building, a garage closer to the street than the main buildings is to that street. And section 10.11 B, to permit a maximum height of 5.75 meters for an accessory building, a garage, which is greater than the maximum permitted height of 4.5 meters. Mover and seconder for that. Committee member Emerson and committee member Froese will second. All in favor? That's carried. The adjournment motion that the Committee of Adjustment meeting for consideration of minor variance application A 0823 be adjourned at 6:51 PM. And that in accordance with the regulations of the Planning Act, notices of decision be circulated by the Secretary Treasurer accordingly. Mover and seconder, please. Committee member Chilcott. Committee member Froese. All in favor? That's carried. We are adjourned. Good evening. Welcome to the regular council meeting. It is Thursday, November the 16th, 2023, 7 p.m., and I will call this meeting to order. I'll remind members of any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Councilor Probst.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 12.2A. I will step aside for that one.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, review of items not listed on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one item tonight. It's a confidential item regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Lighthouse.
Thank you. Section 4, announcements. Any announcements this evening? Councilor Chilcott.
I had to get figured out. So this Saturday is the lighting of the lights in the Vienna Park for Christmas. There's caroling, cookies, hot chocolate, and Santa, of course. Bring the kids out and enjoy the evening. Starts at
6:30.
6:30.
Thank you for that. Any other announcements? Councilor Chilcott?
Do we have another meeting before the Santa Claus parade in Port Burwell?
No.
Next meeting date is December the 7th.
So there will be a Santa Claus parade in Port Burwell as well.
Yes.
The nighttime parade. I'm not positive on when it starts. I think it's 6 o'clock. And they go to the Marine Museum at the end, and there will be crafts and cookies and hot chocolate and a whole lot of stuff that's been put on by the community. So
Thank
be
you.
there again.
Thank you for that. Okay. Moving on to section 6, delegations. This evening, we have Nick Collard regarding the capstone infrastructure. Nick, welcome to the podium.
Thank you very much. Great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for affording us the opportunity to discuss our proposed project in the municipality of Bayham. I'm Nick Collard. I'm a project manager with Capstone Infrastructure, working in our development department. I'm here with our VP of Development, Hendrik Housel, and it's our pleasure to present to you tonight. So allow me to provide a quick synopsis of why we're here. Capstone is seeking a municipal support resolution from the municipality of Bayham to obtain 4 rated criteria points in the upcoming IESO battery storage request for proposals, also named the LT1 for long-term rated procurement 1. What we're asking for in no way supersedes any approvals or permits that we'd have to do to see our proposed project through, but instead it shows that the municipality is generally supportive of these projects being built in Bayham upon further study. Also, it's important to note that we are in the very early stages of citing consultation and engagement for this project. So what you see in this presentation is very much preliminary in nature. So if we go to the next slide, please. Actually, just the previous slide is great. Sorry. A brief overview of what we'll be talking about tonight. I'll provide some background into Capstone. We'll take a look at our local presence with the Erie Shores Wind Farm. I'll explain the ISO LT procurement in greater detail. I'll give you a proposed project overview, and we'll describe the local benefits of the municipal support resolution and the municipal support resolution. Next slide, please. So Capstone Infrastructure is developer, owner, and operator of power projects throughout North America, including in Bayham, which I'll touch on momentarily. We're a Toronto-based company dedicated to clean power initiatives since our founding in 2004. We are publicly traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange and have a rich history of investing in wind, solar, hydro, biomass, and natural gas. We think of ourselves as a great community partner and strive to achieve this. Capstone is proud to be a leading Canadian independent power producer, boasting over a decade of experience developing, owning, and operating power facilities across Canada. So some key figures for our company: we have 824 megawatts of gross installed capacity with 2 gigawatts currently in development. It's across North America. And we own and operate 31 facilities in Canada with 20 plus in Ontario itself. Some recent activity of ours includes securing the largest municipal offtake agreement with the City of Edmonton, achieving COD for 50 megawatts of solar projects in 2023, and currently having 2 wind projects under construction in Alberta, soon to provide over 250 megawatts of electricity to their grid. Next slide, please. All right, now I'd like to highlight what I previously touched on, i.e. the contributions of Capstone Infrastructure Corporation to the municipality of Banff. As a longstanding local presence, Capstone owns and operates the 99 megawatt Erie Shores wind farm, positioned along the north shore of Lake Erie from our Port Burwell substation, east and west of there. Erie Shores is one of the largest wind power facilities in Ontario, constituting approximately 4.8% of the province's installed wind power capacity. And Capstone has been an active and engaged community member, hosting multiple events since the farm's inauguration in 2006, including a recent fish fry, which we discussed in August of 2023. You should see the picture of that down at the bottom of the slide there. The Erie Shores wind farm contributes significantly to the local economy, generating over $300,000 in property taxes annually across the municipalities in which it's sited. In short, we're proud to be a part of the Bay community, and we remain committed to positively impacting the local economy with our prospective battery project. Next slide, please. The Independent Electricity System Operator, or IESO's LT1 request for proposals is a significant initiative aimed at competitively procuring over 2,000 megawatts of year-round storage and capacity services. This procurement will target 1,600 megawatts of electricity from storage facilities in Ontario. Some key points here. The RFP includes rated criteria points for local government body support, which we deem to be crucial to the project's success. The deadline for binding bids is December 12th, and successful proponents will engage in a 22-year capacity contract with the IESO. Originally, there were 55 qualified applicants for the ELT1 procurement, which Capstone was one of those. So as you can see in the schedule there, the RFP itself was just bottom of the slide, launched in March of this year. In June to September, we submitted what's called the deliverability test to see if there was room on the transmission line for our proposed projects. We achieved deliverability for 50 megawatts on our Erie Shores line, which is where we're proposing to interconnect the project. In December, we've got the proposal submission coming forward, and then contract award is proposed to be around May of 2024. So we'll start looking into various permitting, organizing for such before that point, but the contract award is really the trigger for that. All right, next slide, please. Our proposal involves developing, building, and operating a 50 megawatt standalone battery energy storage project northwest of Eden in the municipality of Banff. This project would be aimed at providing reliability services to support the growing electricity demand in the province's provincial electric system. The project is still in its early stages, does not include on-site power generation, and is expected to be around 10 to 20 acres within a single land parcel, excluding connection lines. It has been sited in proximity to the Erie Shores Wind Farm transmission line, which we would connect to, has considered environmental setbacks and generous setbacks from houses to comply with noise regulations and view shed. The project will comply with all applicable governing body regulations, including environmental regulations, safety regulations, and any others that are required. Note, we currently have a virtual public open house scheduled for December 5th, 2023, and are in the process of mailing out notifications currently. Again, all information up on screen is preliminary as of today, but this is the current state of our proposal. Next slide, please. So the anticipated benefits of our proposed project to the local community include the short-term benefits of construction work that will prioritize local sourcing and creating short-term employment opportunities. Secondary support services, including housing, food, and site maintenance that will contribute to the local economy. And various permit fees and project payments that will contribute to the immediate financial well-being of the community. On the long-term benefit side, we'll see local participating landowners that will enjoy a consistent long-term income. A project that promises substantial tax benefits for over 20 years, providing financial stability to the community, We're estimating currently between 50,000 and 100,000 per year for the site. Potential creation of long-term jobs for site management and ongoing maintenance, which will foster sustained employment. Proposed battery energy storage system will enhance the safety and reliability of the electrical grid, which will bring benefits to the community in the long run. As well as our demonstrated long-term municipal engagement and community support, seen in the Erie Shores Wind project, that'll cross over to this project as well, of course. Next slide, please. So the municipal support resolution, what we're asking of you tonight, is a critical aspect of our project success in the ISO RFP process. Some key points here being project success in the ISO process is paramount due to the competitive nature of the RFP. Figure it's very oversubscribed. Providing a municipal support resolution or MSR in the form set out by the ISO is crucial for scoring points in the LT1 RFP. To reiterate, the MSR is not a substitute for permits, approvals, or site plan control. Rather, it enables the project to secure points in scoring process. Successful procurement of the ISO contract would trigger the ordinary permitting processes within various levels of government and applicable agencies. To meet the December 12th, 2023 bid deadline, we seek your approval for the MSR. Next slide, please. So yeah, thank you very much for hearing our proposal, and I would ask for any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you, Nick, for that presentation. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, comments? Personally, I think any development that is sustainable and is going to occur in BAM is a good thing. I particularly can't help but like the notion of an increased taxable benefit coming to BAM because of this. And as you mentioned within your presentation, you would you're seeking municipal support, and definitely by mid-November. Well, that's where we are. I'll turn the question then to staff. Are there any concerns from staff of supporting such a venture?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't foresee any concerns. Capstone, Nick, and Andrea have met with Marg and I twice so far to discuss the siting and planning requirements, infrastructure, and so forth. They're aware that site plan control is required. They're aware that zoning may be a consideration, and they're also aware that points of access may be on Elgin County roadways, including the transmission lines passing over Plank Road, and they'll have to reach out to Elgin County as well for permitting for road access, whatever that happens to be. So based upon that and the knowledge that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but I believe the transmission lines stay outside of the urban settlement boundary of Eden.
That's
Yes.
correct, yes.
Yes. So based upon that information, staff don't foresee any concern at this time.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, Councilor Chilcott.
I just have one question. The storage of these batteries, call them that, is there any safety risk to the residents having them on site, like that many, that close?
No, so for insurance purposes, we actually have to keep them 3 meters apart. So there's definitely standards in place for that. But in terms of residences, everything is set back from any municipal residences by at least 500 meters, but more up to a kilometer. There are general safety risks with these projects, as there would be with any sort of power project, some fire risk and whatnot. But Capstone, of course, will put in a fire safety plan, strive to make sure that everything is kept as safe as possible in this property and its residents.
Councilor Chilcott.
Well, that was my next question, was fire safety, because we hear about the batteries for cars and that having issues with extinguishing the fires. Would this be similar? Do you have to have special equipment to extinguish?
Actually, from what we know, there's no special equipment that's needed to extinguish. There are fire suppression systems within the batteries themselves. And I do have a few fire safety items that I could go through here as well.
Just to build on Counselor Chilcott's question, I think the underlying question is, are there any special requirements from BAM Fire and Emergency Services in order to accommodate this at all?
So yeah, there will be, Capstone will have to sit down with the fire department and, go through our safety plan, make sure, our fire plan, make sure they understand what the requirements.
All right.
Just a quick comment, Mr. Mayor, that a lot of this information regarding fire inputs and discussion with municipal staff will be had at the site plan stage.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, well, getting more to the bottom of it, if there's special equipment that we're going to have to accommodate this. Yes, all right. Yeah, Andrew, please.
Can you hear me? Similar to our wind farm, you know, when we have any kind of emergency response issues on site, it's more potentially for servicing like the staff for Capstone. There's definitely no obligation for the municipality to get any special equipment. That would be responsibility of Capstone or the third party that we're having, you know, maintain and operate the site. So, but it's more kind of awareness of, you know, where it's safe to enter, if there, you know, someone has any kind of accident on site, things like that, and just what the interaction will be, kind of similar to with our wind farm or solar facilities, just in terms of what that dynamic is between the operator and the municipality.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, that's what I kind of wanted to know, that,
Yeah.
you know, they're not going in there and endangering themselves, or whether there would be more equipment that they would have to deal with.
And I know Nick has it printed here, but there's obviously this is a very hot topic in terms of fire and the kind of runoff of the batteries. I've seen burning cars in Toronto. And you know, that's something that, as Nick noted, insurance is really driving a really high bar for developers like Capstone, but also kind of expect on a Canadian-wide basis, just coming out with these, you know, fire suppression systems to avoid any kind of like fully containment. And, you know, so for 50 megawatts, we'd maybe have in the range of 15 to 25 containers, you know, so they're separated and each of them are isolated. So it's definitely a really good question. I think like the most hot button issue that we're really hearing about, and I expect that when we have our public meeting for any of the residents that join, that'll be something that we'll hear a lot of questions about.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Staff have a particular motion ready.
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. If council is interested in supporting the proposed project insofar as providing a municipal support resolution, we do have wording available.
Counselor Chilcott.
I would move that. We support.
Moved by let's read the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion would read that the presentation from Nick Collard, Capstone Infrastructure, be received for information, and that the council of the corporation of the municipality of Bayham supports the development, construction, and operation of a 50 megawatt long-term reliability project within the municipality of Bayham as described in the delegation from Capstone Infrastructure, and that council recognizes the sole purpose of this support is to enable Capstone Infrastructure to receive rated criteria points under LT1 RFP or to satisfy its obligations under any awarded LT1 contract, and may not be used for the purpose of any other form of approval in relation to the proposal or long-term reliability project, or for any other purpose, including planning approvals, and that the mayor be authorized to complete and sign a municipal support resolution in this regard on behalf of council and on the prescribed form.
All right. Thank you. That was moved by Counselor Chilcott, seconded by Counselor Crows. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Moving on to section 7, adoption of the minutes of the previous meetings. We have the regular meeting of council held November the 2nd, 2023, as well as the statutory planning meeting held November the 2nd, 2023. Everyone's had opportunity to approve those minutes. If there are no errors or omissions, I would entertain a mover and seconder for the following, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held November 2nd, 2023, and the minutes of the statutory planning meeting held November the 2nd, 2023, be approved as presented. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Emerson will move. Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? That is carried. Brings us to section 11, physical services, emergency services. 11.2, reports to council, report PS 1723 by Ed Willison, manager of capital projects, water wastewater operations, and Steve Adams, manager of public works, drainage superintendent, regarding PW 25 tandem truck canoe procurement group. Good evening, Mr. Willison.
Good evening, your worship and members of council. Pleased to be here this evening to bring forward information regarding PW 25, specifically the replacement of 2012 tandem truck within our public works fleet. Just like to start the presentation with some background information and go way back to 2015, specifically citing our purchasing and procurement bylaw, because I'm going to reference a few points from that bylaw further in this report. Council would recall back in October of 2022 that a capital budget report was brought forward seeking approval for the purchase of 14 capital items, one of which was PW 25, the tandem truck within Public Works. It's important to note that in that 2023 to 2032 capital budget, that PW 25 was originally introduced as a $400,000 rather item, and was later increased to $500,000 within the 2024-2033 capital budget. The reason for this, your worship and members of council, is that we're seeing a bit of a timeline here from 2022 to this evening, and then later on you'll appreciate why this truck has taken so long to come about. The industry has saw significant setbacks in manufacturing, delays, materials, workforce, and this is why we've had an opportunity in consultation with manufacturers to increase the PW 25 from 400,000 to 500,000. Getting into the discussions of the report, council recall that this past June we had a presentation from Canoe Procurement Group of Canada. During that presentation, the Canoe folks brought forward information to council specifically related to the advantages of taking part in this group procurement. Group procurement such as this is available through LAS and AMO Business Services. And during that presentation, your worship, we heard that typically municipalities that take advantage of this type of group procurement can see savings upwards to 20% on purchases. And on a purchase of this size for our municipal public works fleet, we certainly wanted to dive in deeper to this process, and have actually had an opportunity to review our purchasing and procurement bylaw that I mentioned earlier, and actually determined that it does in fact comply with group procurement, specifically sections 9.28 and 9.29. That refers to cooperative purchasing, specifically where it is deemed in the municipality's best interest to do so. So staff have gone out and we've received some feedback from Canoe and Canoe vendors. During this process, we were made aware that recent global supply chains have resulted in lower production of equipment. This certainly is a concern for all municipalities, as this type of fleet equipment is crucial to our operations. Tandem trucks within public works perform a vital role with maintaining minimum maintenance standards, which we all know are mandatory throughout our roads, county roads. We also we're made aware that manufacturer supply and demand issues will not only result in these product delays, but from an operational standpoint, we will certainly need to be reevaluating the amount of maintenance money that we're allotting to the operational budgets to bridge that gap of extending the useful life of our equipment. Typically, we're on a 10-year replacement program for the tandem trucks. And we're certainly seeing, as we're having to deal with these manufacturing issues, that maintenance costs are certainly going to be on the rise if we continue to see delays such as we're seeing here. So your worship, members of council, just as a timeline, you can see that staff came before you in October of 2022. We received a resolution to move forward on capital items. Here we are today, November of 2023, with finally with the assistance of Canoe and their vendors, some build spots have opened up from the suppliers of tandem trucks and the winter snowplow equipment. We have we received two prices here, one from Freightliner and one from International, both with the Viking equipment. And when we say the Viking equipment, that is the dump box and the plow equipment specific for those trucks. So further to that timeline, I think it's important to note that this quotation for the truck is valid for 15 days. It demonstrates how vulnerable the manufacturing industry is specific to this type of equipment. And we have been presented with an opportunity here to take advantage of a build date. And if we move forward with this evening, the anticipated build date for this truck is actually Q2 of 2025. So we're here this evening with a recommendation, but prior to that, I'd like to go over the strategic plan goals. They're here before you this evening: quality of place, focus on core infrastructure, and quality of governance to continually demonstrate financial responsibility to our community. So with that, your worship, we do have a recommendation before you, specifically for the low bid from Freightliner and Viking. And Steve Adams is also on the line. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to take them.
Thank you for that report, Ed. Does anyone have any questions, concerns? Councillor Chilcott.
Just one. Is there a difference in the timeline for either one of these companies, Freightliner or International?
Through your worship, to Councillor Chilcott, no, the same timeline.
Same delivery time?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Deputy Mayor Weiser.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just one question. If we approve this and take it to tender now, do we pay when it arrives, or do we pay when we when we approve?
Through your worship to Deputy Mayor Weisler, yes, the bid price that's before you this evening would be in effect. It will be held until such a time that we take possession of the truck. So that's a very good question rather. And further to that, I mentioned that Q2 is the anticipated build date. The actual delivery date is a bit uncertain. We do believe certainly by end of 2025 that Public Works can take advantage of the new piece of equipment.
Okay, that answers your question, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Councillor Emerson.
Well, the question was, is there any consideration for comparison, like how much money are we saving going through Canoe versus your normal procedure for buying equipment?
Through your worship to Councillor Emerson, can you indicate that typically purchases of this size are a 20% savings by taking advantage of the group procurement? And this is group procurement that's available to, municipalities and specific fleet equipment. So we heard that presentation that evening and the representatives suggesting that is typically the number that they see. So that I would have to suggest that that's probably in and around the number that we would be seeing.
Any additional questions? And if not, we have a draft resolution. We'll see if anyone's interested in moving second. Excuse me. The motion reads, report PS 1723 regarding the PW 25 tandem truck canoe procurement group be received for information. And that the council of the corporation of the municipality of BAM approves the procurement of one new Freightliner tandem truck supplied by Viking Clives, with Viking Clives equipment, as outlined in the quotation received from Viking Clives Limited for a quoted amount of $436,585 plus HST. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Weiser will move. So Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Ed.
Excellent. Thank you.
Moving on to section 12, development services, sustainability and conservation, 12.1 correspondence, and 12.1.1 to receive for information. Item A, notice of public meeting regarding proposed minor variance A 0823 Thiessen. I hope no one has any questions. We've already done it. The motion reads that item 12.1.1A be received for information. Mover and seconder, Councillor Chilcott, Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? That is carried. 12.2, reports to council, report DS 6123 by Margaret Underhill, Planning Coordinator, Deputy Clerk, regarding the rezoning application ZBA 1223 Bonneville Farmland, Ontario 4, Inc. 55314 Jackson Line. Mark?
Thank you, Your Worship. The report before you is for consideration of a rezoning application submitted on behalf of Bonnyfield Farmland, Ontario 4, Inc., looking to rezone a property at 55314 Jackson Line. Purpose of the bylaw amendment is to rezone two portions of the subject lands as a result of a surplus farm dwelling severance. The proposed severed lot is to be rezoned from A1A agricultural to a site-specific rural residential RR-47. And that would permit the residential use and to retain an oversized accessory building and prohibit the keeping of livestock in the barn. The proposed retained lot or the farmlands are to be rezoned from A1A to special agricultural A2 zone to prohibit new dwellings. The effect of the bylaw recognizes the residential nature of the newly created residential lot, to prohibit the new dwellings on the retained farm parcel, and to be in accordance with the official plan, and is part of the clearing of consent conditions for Elgin Land Division Committee File number E40-23. Public meeting was held November 2nd. There were no signed-in attendees, no persons speaking to the application, and no written public submissions. The planner's memorandum dated June 8, 2023, which accompanied staff report DS 3623 on June 15th, 2023, did provide an analysis of the consent application that council previously considered and supported, and it spoke to the rezoning requirements. So staff and planner concur the rezoning application meets the policies. We recommend approval to change the zoning to meet the condition of the consent application that was granted July 26, 2023. The recommendation is before you, and I'm here for questions, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mark, for that report. Does anyone have any questions? Fairly straightforward. Okay. The motion reads that report DS 6123 regarding Bonneville Farmland Ontario 4 Inc. rezoning application, ZBA 1223, be received for information. And that pursuant to Planning Act Regulations, Bill 73, Smart Growth for Our Communities Act 2015. It be pointed out that at the public participation meeting held November the 2nd, 2023, associated with this application, there were no written submissions and no oral presentation received regarding this matter. And that all considerations were taken into account in council's decision passing this resolution. And that zoning bylaw number Z 456, 2003 as amended, be further amended by changing the zoning on the property located in concession South Gore Part Lot 122, known municipally as 55314 Jackson Line, from agricultural A1A to special agricultural A2 on the retained lands, and from agricultural A1A zone to site-specific rural residential RR 47 zone on the severed lands to permit severance of a surplus farm dwelling in accordance with official plan policies. And that zoning bylaw number Z 764 2023 be presented to council for enactment. Anyone interested in moving and or seconding that? Councillor Chilcott will move. Councillor Emerson will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item B, report DS 6223 by Margaret Underhill, Planning Coordinator, Deputy Clerk, regarding consent application E 7523 Giesbrick N and M at 11450 Ridge Line. Mark?
Thank you, your worship. This report is to consider consent application E 7523 received from the Elgin County Land Division Committee and submitted by Neil and Maria Giesbrecht. They are proposing to sever a 1.26 acre parcel of land and retain 186.4 acres of land, and it's for the purpose of creating one residential lot containing an existing dwelling. The application will be considered by Elgin Land Division Committee on November the 22nd. I did ask council to refer to the attached Arcadis memorandum dated November 9th, 2023 for the full analysis of this consent application. It was analyzed subject to the PPS, which is the provincial policy statement, the County of Elgin official plan, the Municipality of Bayham official plan, and zoning bylaw. Based upon the review analysis, the application as it was presented does not meet the provincial policy statement 2020 or the Elgin County official plan or Municipality of Bayham official plan and zoning bylaw. Within the memorandum, staff and the planner have provided to council for consideration two options. Option 1 and option 2 are presented in the recommendation for reasons either to refuse the application or to defer the application. To defer, the application would need to be amended, be recirculated as a new proposal, and it would have to be amended for the purpose of being consistent with the PPS, conform to the Elgin County OP, the Bayham OP, as well as the zoning bylaw. To refuse the application the way it sits right now, it could be refused for the reasons noted in the recommendation. There's 4 points. I won't reiterate that unless we get into questions, so I'll leave it like that for you, your worship, for questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Council, any questions? All right. Mark, if council adopted the first option, or refused it, what are the options available to the applicants coming forward? They would still have to follow more or less the guidelines as indicated in option 2.
Through your worship to council, if our council decides to refuse the application as it's presented, we would send that recommendation to the Elgin County Land Division Committee. It is still up to the committee themselves to decide and make the decision on the application.
Understood. The applicants, what is
I'm
open
sorry.
to them?
So it's open to them is they would still be able to present at the Land Division Committee meeting.
Right.
They can present their case to the committee. If the committee refuses it, they can appeal. There is an appeal process.
Well, even if BAM chose option one and refused, we are still a commenting agency. It still will go to Elgin County Land Division.
That is correct, your worship. We are
Alright.
a commenting body. We provide the comments back to the committee for them to make the decision on the application.
So if we in turn though, went to option two, we preserved their consent application fee, correct? They didn't have to make another application. And able to amend their application to land division, which might meet the criteria to get their goal.
Through your worship to council, the Land Division Committee does have an amendment fee
All right,
that they would charge to amend an application. I did not check with the Secretary Treasurer to know if this is a major amendment that they would ask for a complete new application, but I would expect that an amendment would still be
Yeah.
subject to a fee. They can amend the application to bring it more in compliance with the land use planning documents that I've listed. And they can proceed as an amended application with recirculation.
yes. If I were looking at it, I would probably lean towards a fairly substantial amendment. If I were looking at what they're recommending,
Through your worship, if you're
Yes.
asking me yet?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
it's substantial.
It's a substantial.
But what I'm
thing.
getting at is they already have one foot in the door with one fee already in. The question I was asking, are we saving them a wasted fee if we offered option two versus just outright refusal? Outright refusal says signals the land division, we don't support it. Chances are land division would not support it. They'd have to come back at it as presented in option two anyway.
Through your worship, if it was a straight refusal by the Land Division Committee.
Yeah.
The fee is gone.
Yes,
They would have to resubmit a new application, new fee.
that's what I was
Yes.
after.
Yes.
So that's, I'm just trying to put that on the table for council to consider. So what's your appetite? For option two? Deputy Mayor Weiser.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick question to Margaret. If we choose option two and defer, does that give the applicant enough timeline before the proposal is actually going to Elgin County, or I'm just wondering about timeline there.
Through your worship to the deputy mayor, we would be sending comment back to the Land Division Committee recommending the Land Division Committee defer the application for a resubmission.
Yeah.
So there's not a timeline at this point. It's our comment back to the committee with our recommendation for them to defer it for the reasons that we've noted in our report. So then it's up to the
Right.
committee to make their decision whether they want to defer or not, or consider the application as it stands.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Counselor Chilcott.
Thank you. So option two benefits the landowner only slightly by possibly reducing fees and increases or decreases the timeline. They would have to start all over again if we refuse. Is that correct?
Through your worship to council. If the Land Division Committee refuses the application the way it's presented now, it's a dead application, pretty much. They would have to reapply and come at it a different way. If the Land Division Committee takes the recommendation that says, let's defer it and let's amend it, then the applicant has the opportunity to amend that application. However, I do want to point out option two clearly states that they're going to have two applications. They're going to have to amend one to separate the parcels, and they're going to have a second application to do the surplus dwelling. So no matter what, they've got two applications.
Mark, do they have to consolidate the parcels at the end?
That is correct, your worship.
So it's a three-step process. Separate, sever a surplus farm dwelling, consolidate the parcels. And it's all because they didn't recognize that they were merged prior to purchase. Correct? That's the only reason I was suggesting considering option 2. If the mistake was made, they didn't realize this prior to purchase, and then they built the house, thinking they had a surplus by farm consolidation, but they didn't. That's why I'm saying. Otherwise, we can just outright refuse. That's why I'm gauging what's the appetite for council. Deferral? Okay. You got the motion? Go ahead. Okay, I've been reading them all night.
All right. That report DS 6223 regarding consent application E 7523 submitted by Neil and Maria Giesbrecht. Be received for information, and that council recommend to the Elgin County Land Division Committee that council recommends deferral of consent application E 7523 and recirculation if the applicant amends the current application to meet existing policy framework in the provincial policy statement 2020, Elgin County official plan, municipality of Bayham official plan, and zoning bylaw as follows. A, consent application E 7523 would be amended to sever the subject property into 2 farm parcels, reestablishing parcel fabric similar to when the subject property wasn't merged. Therefore, 1 dwelling would be located on each of the proposed farm parcels. At the time of resubmission, the applicant's proposal would need to ensure the 2 farm parcel configurations meet the A1A zone minimum lot frontage of 150 meters, as well as a minimum lot area of 40 hectares for the westerly farm parcel and minimum lot area 20 hectares for the easterly farm parcel. If the amended consent application is conditionally approved by the Elgin County's Land Division Committee, and the applicant satisfies the conditions and stamping of the deeds has occurred, then the subject property will be severed into 2 farm parcels. B, once the lands are successfully severed into 2 farm parcels, a new consent application would be submitted by the applicant for a surplus farm dwelling severance. The new consent application would propose to sever the existing single attached dwelling in the northwestern corner of the subject property as a surplus farming dwelling, while the other existing single detached dwelling would remain on the retained agricultural lands. As a condition of approval on the new consent application, a zoning bylaw amendment would be required to rezone the proposed severed surplus farm dwelling lot to rural residential RR zone, while the retained agricultural lot would be rezoned to special agricultural A2 zone. The A2 zone would prohibit any future construction of a new dwelling unit on the retained agricultural lot. If the new consent application is conditionally approved by the Elgin County's Land Division Committee and the applicant satisfies the conditions and stamping of the deeds has occurred, the proposed surplus farm dwelling lot and retained agricultural lot will be successfully severed.
Having heard that motion, is anyone interested in moving and seconding that? Deputy Mayor Weiser will move. I think Councilor Prose will second. All in favor? That is carried, and thank you. Brings us to section 13, Finance and Administration, 13.1 Correspondence, 13.11 to receive for information. Item A, City of Cambridge regarding support for Bill 21, that's fixing Long-Term Care Amendment Act. Item B, Long Point Region Conservation Authority regarding the October 4th, 2023 meeting minutes. And C, the County of Elgin regarding resolution support of updating the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Does anyone wish to speak to any of these items? Or support any of these items? I would note that the county the other day supported the city of Cambridge for Bill 21, fixing the Long-Term Care Act. That's Till Death Do Us Part Act. As well as I'm sure the county would support or would welcome support for the updating the Municipal Freedom of Information and Privacy Protection Act. Deputy Mayor Weisler.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarity, did we not already support the Municipal Freedom of Information Act at a previous meeting?
The changes as were outlined by the county? I can't recall. I don't think we did.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not the county's recommendations. No, there was some general correspondence from another municipality that was received, but I don't recall whether it was supported or not.
Oh, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize. I am very much in support of that. I would move that we would support that as well. I was just under the impression that we had already done it, so sorry about that. But I will put that motion forward that we move that to support that.
Support the County of Elgin?
Yes.
How about Bill 21? Did we do this one? We've already done that one. Well, that's good. Got too many pieces of correspondence in my mind. Okay, yes, just to reaffirm, then the County of Elgin was in concert with the research, and they drafted these changes. Okay. So, if I understand correctly, then the motion would read that items 13.1.1 and B and C be received for information that the Council of the Corporation and Municipality of Banff supports item C, the County of Elgin resolution. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Weisler and Councillor Froese. All in favor? That's carried. Brings us to 13.2, reports to council, report CAO 5923 by Thomas Thayer, CAO, the award of the RFP 2303 Insurance and Risk Management Services. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report comes before council after staff issued RFP 2023-03 for general insurance and risk management. Council received 2 reports in 2022 prior to the 2023 insurance update. The first report identified projected increases in property, general liability, and umbrella coverage that would result in an increase to annual premiums for 2023. The second report, as received by council on December the 15th of last year, was to award the 2023 insurance program to our municipal insurer at the time, Marsh Canada Limited, and council at the time directed that an RFP be issued in 2023 prior to the 2024 municipal insurance program being adopted. So similar to what was conducted in 2019 for the last round of RFPs for this function, we retained Joy Jackson from Cunnert Associates. She provides risk management support and insurance report. So she reviewed and advised on the issuance of the RFP and reviewed the responses and packages to compare and contrast and provide a recommendation before council. So her report is attached to this staff report. And just a little bit of high level background that the RFP was issued on September the 14th. It closed on October the 26th. We received 2 bids. They were opened publicly by myself and the clerk. So Intact Public Entities, it's former Frank Cowan, they bid, as well as our current insurer, Marsh Canada, the previous JLT. It should be noted that in 2019, the 2020 insurance program through the previous RFP was awarded to JLT, now known as Marsh. So they have been our insurer for the last 4 years. When comparing both, I'd like to draw council's attention to the point that Marsh Canada provided us a quote on cyber insurance. And Intact did not include that as part of their package. And in light of last year's cyber incident with the county and Central Elgin, the inclusion of a cyber package is very positive and supportive of the proposal. And Ms. Jackson felt this carried a lot of weight as well. With respect to total scoring, the Marsh Canada Limited total premium comes in higher. The scoring also comes in higher, but it's worth noting that the Marsh Canada Limited premium includes cyber insurance. If we remove cyber insurance and sort of even out what we're comparing, Marsh's premium is lower with a higher score than Intact. All this aside, it is worth noting that because this was an RFP, there is no obligation on the part of the municipality to proceed with the lowest compliant proposal. Council may proceed how council chooses to. And this is a bit of a different scenario than the previous RFP. The previous RFP, there was about a 29% discrepancy between the two proposals received at the time. The difference in the bids this time around is only 2.9%. So we're far closer. And if we do go with Marsh, which is the recommendation before council, our premium increases year over year by approximately 3%, but it's worth recognizing that this 3% essentially is for our cyber insurance coverage. So we are getting better overall coverage for a small increase, which is less than general inflation these days. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I will leave it with you and council to deliberate. The recommendation is before you to obtain the 2024 insurance program through Marsh Canada Limited, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you for that, Thomas. Any questions? Well, I hate to say it, but it's the cost of doing business. Okay. The proposed motion read that report CAO 5923 regarding award of RFP 23-03 insurance and risk management services be received for information. And that the 2024 municipal insurance program be obtained from Marsh Canada Limited. Do I have a mover and seconder? Deputy Mayor Weisler and Councillor Chilcott. All in favor? That's carried. Section 14, the bylaws. Bylaw number 2023-084 being a bylaw to amend. Bylaw 2023-034 being a bylaw to appoint committee members. Bylaw number Z 764-2023 being a bylaw to amend bylaw Z 456-2003 as amended, Bonneville Farmland, Ontario, Inc. Any questions with regards to the bylaws? And we need a mover and seconder for the following, that bylaws numbers 2023-084 and Z 764-2023 be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed. Moved by Councillor Emerson, seconded by Councillor Chilcott. All in favor? Oh, yeah. It's carried. You threw me there for a minute, not froze. But you were right. Section 16, other business. Item A, draft joint cemetery board minutes held November 7th, 2023. Any questions? Mover and seconder for the following, that the draft joint cemetery board minutes held November the 7th, 2023 be received for information. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Froese and Councillor Emerson will second. All in favor? That's carried. Item B, joint cemetery board recommendations to council. Does anyone wish to speak to this?
Through your worship, just to speak high level, that from the November 7th meeting, there was 2 motions that included recommendations to council, so they are outlined on that document for you. And I will probably leave it with you to discuss further as you were there and part of the conversation, but just wanted to note that there's 2 things to consider tonight.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions from council? Will there be a report coming back regarding the definition of holidays? Be approved by council.
Through your worship, if council resolves to direct staff to amend the cemetery bylaw, then that would come through you for approval, which that would be part of the review.
Okay. If there are no further questions, then the motion would read that joint cemetery board recommendations be received for information. And that discussions on resuming the interest guarantee rate of 6% of the care and maintenance investments be referred to the 2024 operating budget deliberations, and that staff be directed to amend cemetery bylaw as proposed by the Joint Cemetery Board. Mover and seconder. Counselor Emerson, Counselor Prose will second. All in favor? That is carried. Which brings us to 16.1 in camera. That council do now rise to enter into an in-camera session at 8:01 PM to discuss item A, confidential item regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. That's the road user agreement negotiation. B, confidential item regarding labor relations, employee negotiations, compensation. C, confidential item regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, labor relations, employee negotiations, staffing. And item D, confidential item regarding advice is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, the lighthouse. Do I have a mover and seconder, please? Counselor Chilcott and Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? That is carried.